It's totally an option. It's up to you if you'd like to practice dolphin pose with blocks or books under your elbows. Please keep stability in mind. So, dolphin pose is a lot like downward facing dog, only instead of support on the hands and wrists as we lift the hips, instead, we'll come on to the elbows. So I like the lift under my elbows, and I have nice grippy blocks that make this extra accessible. But if you don't have blocks or just want to skip it, you're welcome to come straight to the floor on your elbows for dolphin pose. And whatever you choose, you might connect your handprints in center and glue them together or interlace your fingers, making kind of a triangle with your elbows, forearms, and hands. And you'll notice that makes kind of a spot for your head to kind of reach for or dangle into. We're not going to have the head take any support at all. It will continue to hang loose. All right. From here, you're welcome to reach one set of toes back like we did setting up for bird dog earlier. And do this one side and then the other. This is great core work that prepares for dolphin pose. And this is good work if you'd like to start here today. Just continue to breathe. When you're ready to add on, whether today or another day, reground both knees in center. Tuck both sets of toes. Press into both elbows and hands in center. And lift the knees, extending them towards the sky. And this is your dolphin pose. You might work towards walking your toes towards your elbows, lifting your hips higher. This is good preparation for shoulder stand, which I will not demonstrate today. You might choose to hold this for 3 or 5 breaths, giving the diaphragm a little extra workout as it works against gravity. And when you're ready, bring both knees to the floor. Come up, take a big breath, and choose to make your way to the floor for a seat. I like to take a moment in what I call mermaid as I send my knees to the side and my feet to the side. And from here, I'll invite you to kind of walk your feet around to the front of your mat, wherever the front might be for you, one of the short edges of your mat. And maybe your handprints come to the floor right behind your hips, or you can walk them a little farther. We'll use them like kickstands for support for our upper body. And gluing both footprints down, we'll take just a moment to continue breathing as we just windshield wiper the shins left and right. This might be a really small movement, or maybe it gets bigger. Might try this 5, 10, 20 times. More oscillations will contribute to building synovial fluid in the hips, which is good lubrication for the hip joints, for flexibility and mobility. You might notice the sensation of the outside of the hip joints. So you try this. It's a soft thoracic rotation as well, as we allow the lumbar spine to kind of shift with the pelvis. And we keep the rib cage kind of anchored with the hands grounded behind us. All right, nice work. Choose to continue that way or set up for reversed tabletop. So you saw hands and knees for what we call regular tabletop. Reverse tabletop is here with feet in front and hands behind. Choose to press into hands and feet at the same time to lift the hips. And maybe you do a few dips. Hip dips, lift and dip. This is good work. Maybe you keep working towards lifting your belly button towards the sky. Maybe think about tucking your tail towards your heels. Maybe you look up and allow your face to roll back. Maybe your crown is kind of supported, maybe the back of your head on your mounded shoulders. And notice my thumbs are turned outward. As I bring my hips to the floor, I'll show you another variation or option could be to turn the thumbs inward. And notice how this changes the pose. You lift your hips and You also can keep your chin tucked towards your chest and look towards your knees. Watch your belly move as you breathe. And choose to sit down when you feel complete. Maybe take some circles with soft fists, giving a little mobility to the wrists, which have endured a lot of support in this practice. If you'd like, you may choose to bring your knuckles together in center, bringing elbows wide at about chest level. Bring some strength into your arms here, connecting your knuckles rather forcefully in center. Maintain that strength and connection as you slowly exhale as you extend the backs of both hands away from your heart. You'll notice the soft flexion in the wrists as you continue to press toward the midline with both strong arms. You may notice sensation over the backs of the wrists here as well as we're creating eccentric length in those ligaments with this effort towards center. When your knuckles start to peel apart, that's your edge. You're welcome to bring it home towards your heart, pressing in center until you feel complete. You might open and close one or both hands 5 or 10 times. Circle those wrists again. Might make some neck circles or bring one hand to the opposite shoulder. Practicing bilateral stimulation and just self-care with a little bit of a shoulder massage. From here, you might choose to check in with your intention, decide if you need more movement or if you're ready to lie on your back for some restorative poses. You may choose to keep a blanket or pallet of any kind for softness or move it aside for the extra flat support of the earth underneath you. You might root both footprints to the floor, coming down onto elbows before lowering onto your spine. Take just a moment maybe to press into both feet, lift your hips and tuck your tail before lowering your spine again. You might do the same with your head, maybe bringing your hands to help your head lift as you tuck your chin slightly and set it back down. As your hands come to rest along your sides, allow your thumbs to turn outward as you tuck your shoulder blades into pockets on your back. Take one or more breaths here, noticing the support, the soft transition from upright to lying in this supine pose. As we did sitting up, you may choose to windshield wiper your knees again, left and right. Tuning in to the sound of your breath. As you connect both feet with the floor, lift one ankle and connect it with the top of the other thigh. As you send that folded knee out to one side, bring your handprint to the inside of that knee crease for soft resistance, and bring the other hand to the back of the still grounded foot's knee as well. With a little bit of abdominal strength, the grounded foot might leave the floor as you bring your lap towards your heart. So one hand is bringing your newly lifted thigh towards you, and the other hand might offer resistance for the one that's folded out to the side. This is reclined half pigeon pose. You might notice the weight of both knees towards your heart, sensation on the outside of the hip, length in the lower flank behind the sacrum and the low back and lumbar spine. Choose to make space between upper and lower teeth, maybe floating the tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Long breath in here. You might make circles with your floating foot. When you feel complete here, release your ankle from the top of the thigh as you give your folded knee a hug towards the same side shoulder, and bring that other floating foot to the floor again. Stay here for half happy baby, maybe wrapping your elbow around the knee or shin of your folded leg. The other hand might offer comfort or support to the low shin or ankle, guiding it towards the hip. Choose to stay here or reach long with the other leg, extending it along the mat. Opening the hip flexor on that side as we neutralize the low back with this folded leg. Choose to stay here for as long as serves you. When you're ready, an inhale might bring your extended leg towards the sky, stretching your footprint up, flexing your toes towards your shin, reaching through the heel towards the sky. And taking your folded leg, you might choose to bring the ankle to the outside of the lifted thigh and guide the folded knee towards the opposite shoulder. You might work your thumb into the hip crease of your folded leg and kind of encourage it to stay rooted to the floor with awareness of the kind of grounding point of your pelvis on the floor behind you, if that makes sense. This is a piriformis stretch. It might not feel like much at all, or it might be rather intense. So notice your breath in response to intensity and take care. And when you feel complete here, you're invited to unfold that leg and reach that footprint towards the sky, just like the other. Take several breaths here in waterfall pose. Maybe flexing the toes and pointing them, or taking any other organic movements you'd like. I like to imagine water gently trickling over my toes and dribbling on my forehead, creating sensation and soft sound. Take it or leave it if that imagery is useful for you. As you're ready, invite both footprints to the floor one at a time. And we'll repeat all of that on the other side, lifting the other footprint and crossing it to bring the ankle to the top of the thigh and sending that knee outward with soft resistance from the hand on the same side. We'll bring the whole lap towards us, bringing the other fingertips to the back of the knee crease on the other leg. Reclined half pigeon. Notice if this side is different. Choose to flex your folded leg's toes towards the shin, protecting the structure of the knee. You could give yourself a little foot rub or just offer yourself comfort with your hand. Continue to breathe, noticing the length of your spine supported on the mat. When you feel complete here, release your ankle from the top of the thigh, hugging the folded knee, and bringing your lifted foot to the floor. Choose to stay here, using both hands to guide the ankle toward the hip, knee toward the shoulder on the same side. You might walk the grounded foot away, lengthening the leg in extension along the mat. Again, opening the psoas and hip flexors on the opposite side as we lengthen the lumbar spine with the folded leg. You might hear sounds outside the room as I enjoy the warm weather with the windows open. Choose to stay here or reach with your extended foot towards the sky. Option to bring your folded foot to the outside of your lifted thigh. Maybe now guiding the knee towards the opposite shoulder, stretching the piriformis on the other side. You might bring your thumb to the hip crease to encourage the pelvis to stay grounded on that side. Notice your breath and response to intensity or boredom. When you feel complete, choose to extend both legs, reaching your footprints towards the sky for waterfall once more. Making any circles or shapes with your toes and ankles. And you can choose to stay right here. If you have a yoga block available, you're welcome to place it under your hips by bringing your feet to the floor, lifting your hips to place support under your sacrum, the flat part at the base of your spine, before re-lifting your footprints. This just lifts the hips above the heart to help the adrenal system with extra drainage of lymph. Might add to the benefits of your waterfall pose. It's up to you. There's no right or wrong between these variations. Another option might be to practice legs up the wall. It looks very much the same, but the difference being there's a wall for support behind your heels. So I'll show you. The way I like to come into this position is to first identify a nice blank space of wall where I don't mind resting my heels. And then I sit side by side next to the wall. So my shoulder and hip are both touching the wall. And I can see where I'm headed. I roll to one side away from the wall. So now I'm kind of in the fetal position and I can scoot back so my hips touch the wall again. And my shoulders on the floor. Okay. This is where it gets fun. Bending the knees, I roll onto my back and lift my feet to rest both heels on the wall. And wiggling is encouraged here until you find a place that's settled. And you might notice that this looks a lot like staff pose, which we practiced seated on the mat with legs extended. So now we have the length and support of the wall behind the knees. We have gravity guiding the weight of the legs into the hip sockets, allowing the femur heads to plug in where they belong. And we have the nice flat support of the floor underneath the sacrum and spine and head. From here, it might be nice to take up space, whether in waterfall pose or practicing legs up the wall. You might smile to yourself, even if just internally, as you take 5 or more long, nourishing breaths here. Allow your hands to settle, connecting with the earth on either side. Let your fingers be soft and curled in as your palms shine towards the sky. Let your jaw be soft, making space between upper and lower teeth. Can you notice the space between your eyebrows and soften it? Returning to your idea of mindfulness, of interconnectedness, of bringing all the parts of your body and breath and presence into the same time and space of now. Return to your intention for your practice today, whether it's effort or ease or somewhere in between. Invite in another long breath and decide when you feel complete. You might scan your body, noticing the twinkly sensation in your toes, the softness of your ankles and knees, the weight of your hips, your grounded spine, Strong shoulders, anchored elbows and wrists, soft fingers and throat, your heavy head, and smiling face. As you're ready, invite in a long breath. Choose to guide your feet toward your hips as you bend your knees. If you're in waterfall pose, you may bring your feet straight to the floor. If practicing legs up the wall, you may like to roll to one side again. We'll meet resting in the fetal position on the mat,